In the sweltering heat of September 1739, in the vast green lowcountry of South Carolina, life moved to the brutal rhythm of the rice plantations. Here, beneath the deceptive beauty of the live oaks and the humid air, lay a horrifying reality: the systematic dehumanizing institution of slavery. Thousands of enslaved Africans toiled under a merciless sun, their lives defined by backbreaking labor, constant cruelty, and the utter absence of freedom. Their suffering was a stark, undeniable truth. Yet even in this suffocating oppression, a dangerous ember glowed in the darkness. It was the defiant whisper of freedom, a hidden desire that simmered beneath the surface of enforced obedience. This quiet hope, nurtured in secret, would soon ignite into an unthinkable bloody uprising, a roar of rebellion that would shatter the fragile peace of the colony and expose the true horrors of human bondage. This is the chilling story of America's bloodiest slave revolt, a desperate bid for liberty that would leave a trail of fire, terror, and unimaginable consequences. The reality for enslaved people in South Carolina was a powder keg, constantly threatening to explode under the immense pressure of their brutal existence. Life on the vast rice plantations was a waking nightmare. From dawn till dusk, under the scorching sun and oppressive humidity, they endured relentless, backbreaking labor. The rice fields themselves were swamps, infested with mosquitoes and disease, the work agonizingly difficult and physically draining. This wasn't merely hard labor, it was a systematic process designed to extract every ounce of human energy, reducing individuals to mere cogs in a merciless agricultural machine. Mortality rates were horrifyingly high. Disease, malnutrition, and exhaustion claimed lives with grim regularity, often within just a few years of arrival. The very air seemed to carry the stench of death and despair. Compounding these physical torments was a pervasive system of dehumanizing slave codes. These laws, meticulously crafted by the white elite, were designed to strip enslaved people of every vestige of human dignity and maintain absolute iron-fisted control. They outlawed education, restricted movement, forbade gatherings, and denied basic human rights. Any act of defiance, even a spoken word, could be met with brutal whippings, mutilation, or death. This was a society built on the absolute power of masters and the absolute powerlessness of the enslaved, a fertile ground for resentment, desperation, and the chilling whisper of rebellion. On a humid Sunday morning, September 9, 1739, the powder keg of South Carolina finally exploded. It was a day carefully chosen. Sunday meant fewer white overseers were present on the vast plantations, offering a slim window for rebellion. The spark ignited on the plantation of the Hutchinson family near the Stono River. There, a courageous and desperate enslaved man named Jemmy emerged as the unlikely leader. With a small band of 20 fellow enslaved individuals, their hearts pounding with a terrifying mix of fear and desperate hope, Jemmy initiated the unthinkable. Their first audacious act was born of necessity and defiance. They brutally broke into a nearby storehouse, killing the 2 white storekeepers and seizing what they desperately craved: weapons. Axes, muskets, and gunpowder were snatched, transforming them from defenseless laborers into armed rebels. In a powerful symbolic act of defiance, they raised a banner of liberty, a crude but undeniable declaration of their desperate bid for freedom. With their numbers small but their resolve iron-hard, they began a terrifying march, their path set southward, driven by the elusive promise of Spanish Florida, where freedom, they believed, awaited those who could escape the chains of bondage. The roar of rebellion had begun. With newfound weapons and a burning desire for liberty, Jemmy and his band began their terrifying march southward. The rebellion, a desperate cry for freedom, gained momentum as they moved. Their numbers swelled as they passed plantation after plantation. Enslaved people, hearing the drumbeats of defiance and seeing the banner of rebellion, bravely joined their ranks, swelling the initial group of 20 into a force of nearly 80. Their path was marked by fire and blood. They systematically burned plantations, reducing symbols of their enslavement to ash, and driven by a desperate rage against their oppressors, they killed white slaveholders and their families indiscriminately. This was not merely an escape. It was a brutal act of retribution, a violent assertion of their long-denied humanity. Their ultimate desperate goal was clear: Spanish Florida. The Spanish had issued a decree promising freedom and protection to any enslaved person from the British colonies who could reach their borders and convert to Catholicism. This distant promise of liberty, a beacon of hope across the unforgiving landscape, fueled their march. They were racing against time, driven by the dream of a life free from chains, even as colonial militias were mobilizing to crush their rebellion. Every step southward was a desperate gamble against overwhelming odds, a bloody journey towards an uncertain freedom, knowing that failure meant unimaginable retribution. News of the Stono Rebellion, carried by frantic riders, reached colonial authorities with terrifying speed, igniting immediate panic across South Carolina. The response was swift and merciless. Colonial militia companies formed from armed planters and their overseers rapidly mobilized. They were determined to crush the uprising with brutal efficiency, driven by fear of a full-scale slave revolt and a desire for swift retribution. Their pursuit of the rebels was relentless, an unyielding chase through the dense low country, their numbers and weaponry far superior to the desperate, ill-equipped rebel force. The inevitable brutal confrontation occurred later that very day near the Edisto River, or specifically close to the Stono River where it all began. The exhausted rebels, having marched over 10 miles, stopped in a field to rest and celebrate their initial successes, perhaps prematurely. This momentary pause proved fatal. The heavily armed militia descended upon them with overwhelming force, catching many off guard. What followed was a violent, chaotic clash, a desperate struggle between the rebels' fervent desire for liberty and the colonists' ruthless determination to maintain control. It was a brutal fight, marked by musket fire, hand-to-hand combat, and the raw fury of both sides. Despite their courage, the enslaved rebels, outnumbered and outgunned, were ultimately overwhelmed. The roar of their rebellion was brutally silenced, marking a tragic turning point in their desperate bid for freedom. The suppression of the Stono Rebellion was swift, brutal, and designed to instill absolute terror. What followed the clash was a merciless hunt for any surviving rebels. Captured individuals faced no trial, no mercy, only immediate summary executions. The colonial militia, driven by fear and a thirst for vengeance, massacred groups of captured enslaved people on the spot. But the horror didn't end with death. The authorities meticulously ensured that the aftermath served as a chilling, unequivocal warning. In a grotesque display of colonial power, the heads of many captured rebels were severed and then impaled on spikes along the major roadways leading into Charleston and other plantation areas. This horrifying tableau was a deliberate public spectacle of terror, a grim reminder to any enslaved person who dared to dream of freedom. The sight was meant to crush all hope, demonstrating the agonizing fate that awaited those who defied the system. Fugitive rebels, those who managed to escape the initial bloodshed, were relentlessly pursued for months across the swampy low country. Many were tracked down, captured, and subjected to equally brutal punishments or executed. The vicious aftermath of the Stono Rebellion was a stark, bloody testament to the lengths colonial society would go to maintain its brutal system of absolute control, ensuring that the roar of rebellion was replaced by the silent screams of despair. The brutal suppression of the Stono Rebellion unleashed a chilling wave of fear across South Carolina, prompting immediate and drastic measures. In its wake, the colonial authorities moved swiftly to prevent any future uprisings, enacting even harsher slave codes designed to tighten their iron grip on the enslaved population. These new laws severely restricted the lives of enslaved people, further eroding their already minimal freedoms. They outlawed any form of assembly without white supervision, prohibited literacy among enslaved individuals, fearing it would lead to rebellion, and imposed even stricter controls on movement and communication. Punishments for defiance became more brutal, and the system of absolute control grew even more oppressive. Ironically, while the rebellion failed to achieve lasting freedom, it profoundly impacted both sides. For white colonists, the Stono Rebellion created a deep, enduring climate of pervasive fear. The terrifying realization that the enslaved population, though oppressed, harbored a dangerous desire for liberty that could erupt in violence at any moment. This fear fueled a heightened sense of paranoia and a relentless demand for greater security. For the enslaved, despite the devastating failure and the brutal retribution, the rebellion deepened their desperation, yet it also left a subtle, lingering spark of hope. It proved that organized resistance, though incredibly costly, was indeed possible. The memory of Stono, etched in blood and suffering, served as a stark reminder of the immense price of freedom and the chilling power of systemic cruelty. The Stono Rebellion, despite its tragic failure, stands as a pivotal and haunting moment in early American history. A raw, undeniable testament to the enduring human desire for freedom in the face of absolute oppression. Its brutality, both from the rebels and the suppressors, underscored the terrifyingly high cost of resistance in a system built on total control. Though ultimately crushed, Stono profoundly impacted the history of slavery, serving as a grim warning to slaveholders and a desperate, bloody cry for liberty that would echo through future revolts. It proved that even under the most dehumanizing conditions, the human spirit could ignite, however briefly, into a fiery demand for justice. If this chilling, in-depth tale of the Stono Rebellion, America's bloodiest slave uprising, and its brutal aftermath left you unsettled and eager for more dark, compelling narratives from history, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who appreciates the raw, profound truths history offers. And don't forget to subscribe to Tales of Tortures and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey into history's most terrifying, illuminating, and unforgettable stories. Stay tuned.